Hey, it's Dan Moralez, and this is Homebuyer Radio. Welcome back to the podcast. It is well into 2017, and for most people, this is a time of the year where we start to think about New Year's resolutions and good stuff like that. And for a lot of people, they're thinking about buying a house. Now, one of the things I wanted to do is we talked about when we started the podcast, having different guests in the podcast. And my very first guest to the podcast is, of course, a really good friend of mine who happens to be an awesome realtor on top of that, Rebecca Perkins. Rebecca, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me, Dan.
Yes. Hey, thanks for doing this. Now, I should say that we totally are winging this. We didn't plan this, because we feel like we do our best work under pressure. So one of the things I wanted to talk about today was a lot of times clients have this misconception that it actually costs money to work with a realtor when they're getting ready to buy a house, especially when you're looking at buying a house for the first time. And so, I think a lot of times clients don't want to have a conversation with a realtor because they're afraid it's going to cost them something. And I know I talked a little bit about that in the past, that I think it's, a pretty big myth. But so, if I'm getting ready to buy a house and, I'm a first-time home buyer, what does it cost me to work with you?
That's a great question. And I think you are right that there is definitely a misconception out there about working with realtors, that it is going to cost money to have somebody help you and represent you and walk you through the process, when that's not true at all. Actually, the best time to work with a realtor is when you are buying, because it doesn't cost you anything. Of course, realtors do get paid for what they do, but it is paid by the seller who is listing their home. They pay all of the real estate commissions. So when you're a buyer looking, you get free representation to have somebody walk you through the process, help guide you, help you negotiate and everything at no cost to you. So why wouldn't you do it?
Yeah, and that's one of the points I really wanted to make for people, because I think a lot of times there's that misconception. And so people think like, oh, I'll just do it on my own and I'll search for houses on Zillow or, maybe some of these other websites. And that's, I think, another area where people get it wrong, because there's the opportunity to have you put together like a search for me. What are some of the things where, if I'm out there looking for a property, I think you have a different set of tools and resources and things available to you that would maybe help you to identify a property, for me, maybe quicker and faster. What are some of those things that you do with a new buyer that maybe would help benefit them versus them trying to do those things on their own?
Well, I think just an experienced agent to start with, somebody that has been through a number of homes and does a number of transactions in a year, because they do have a better feel of the market as far as pricing and what's happening in the market as far as negotiating and home values.
So like in this case, you would want to know, you would want somebody who's going to represent you that actually knows what they're doing. They've got some experience in the marketplace. They know what's going on. They know kind of the trends and what's happening, and it gives you kind of an upper hand or a benefit. Now, in addition to that, I think you guys, you have the ability to do, really a much more customized kind of search for a would-be buyer. That way, as new listings kind of pop up and hit what they're looking for, they can get that information, maybe quicker and faster than what they would through maybe like a website like Zillow or something like that.
Yes, that's definitely true. So we would set them up on a website that we use as realtors. So if there is a new listing that meets the criteria that they're looking for, they would get that listing as soon as it's listed. And Zillow is definitely a user-friendly website, but I think what people don't realize is that it's about, in this area, at least 70% accurate. So there's a lot of incorrect information, which people don't necessarily know. So in working with a realtor, you do get the most accurate and updated information on homes. And that's definitely another benefit with working with a realtor, is having them set you up on the criteria after listening to what you're looking for in a home. And again, working with an experienced agent, have they seen something? Are they more familiar with, specific criteria that you're looking for in a home than, as a buyer, sometimes you just don't know what you don't know. And
True.
Working with an experienced realtor will definitely help you see through the process.
Yep. So at the end of the day, really what happens is, the client has the opportunity to get, provided expertise, guidance, and direction, really at no cost to them, because it's generally a cost that's being paid for by the seller of a property. And then on top of that, you're going to have the latest, most up-to-date information, because you guys, of course, being agents who are listing the properties, you guys have that information first. So it's, you're going to have it way before it hits Zillow or something like that. And so you have access to that information. And if a client is set up with you and you have a specific search set up for them, they're going to get that stuff right away. So there's no delay. You can move quickly on something if the right property hits, so that they can move fast. And again, all of this is stuff that's provided at no cost to a client. So really, I can't see where there would be a reason why somebody would not want to have representation. And I guess that's a good topic for maybe another episode, is maybe talking a little bit about buyer's agency and the difference between a seller's agent and a buyer's agent. And maybe we'll do that next week on the podcast here. So if I'm a buyer and I'm looking to buy a house, how do I get in contact with you?
I work with At Home Realty in Holland, and my cell is 616-218-6161. Again, 616-218-6161, or feel free to visit my website, RebeccaPerkinsHomes.com, and that's RebeccaPerkins, and then Homes, HOMES.com.
Awesome. Well, hey, I appreciate you taking the time to stop by and hang out with me today. My name is Dan Moralez with Northpointe Bank. My NMLS number is 709-729, and Northpointe Bank is an equal housing lender.